YouTube, Joby from Oz here. So Emma suggested I should do an unboxing for the Quayle 2020 horizontal mill engine. This is an engine I received recently as a gift, and I'm pretty impressed by the way it's been put together. Once it's completed, it should end up looking something along these lines, depending on what colour you chose to paint it. But the novelty here, I think, is that there are no castings. It's made from readily available parts. So as we open the box, there's an isometric drawing of the two sides of the engine, and it looks like quite a nice mill style engine with the crosslink head. And I have had this open before. One of the first things I wanted to do was to verify the contents of the material schedule, make sure I had everything, and it's quite comprehensive, and indeed everything was in here and complete as per the material checklist. There's a paper copy of the building instructions, referencing the tools that you need, and then giving a guided direction as to order of operations, reference to the various drawings of the assemblies and various other components of the build. Next we have a quite nicely prepared set of drawings, A3 in size, which detail the finished components and their exploded view, including fasteners and component assembly items. So as we progress through the drawings, again some section views through the engine to get a better idea of how it's all assembled, detailing of how the assemblies, the Teflon seal, isometric elevations, individual detail parts, assemblies, components, and dimensions in detail as you go through. So I've reviewed the measurements and the drawings and the instructions, and I'm fairly confident that I can build this. So, on to the contents of the box. So, initially this came wrapped quite well in newspaper of the time. Some of the paper was dated around 2013. So the base assembly, you can see I've started to mark my first cuts and drilling locations and so forth. The base assembly will be made up of these components and then silver soldered together. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of the scale of the motor and the base plate of it. So the first component is the stand. All of the bright work came shipped in paper to avoid scratching. This is the cladding for the cylinder. This is one of the few machined parts. It's possibly an item that's used for some other piece of assembly, pre-punched, pre-sized, and he's used this in his design, and it seems to be that the design is very much based on available items. So this becomes the flange plate between the sleeve and the cylinder. It uses some pre-sized brass bushings. Again wrapped to protect against scratching and damage in storage and post, and quite well presented. So this one is a FBM 16, 20, 40. So 16 ID, 20 OD, 40 length. And that essentially with some machining becomes the body of the crosshead, or the crosshead guide. Some brass hex comes in the kit. There's one laser cut component, which is this steel plate, and this is used to manufacture the flywheel with a piece of 65 RD water pipe. So again, that will be machined in so it sits in the center. A fairly heavy material, and that's quite a, I guess you'd say, a low-cost way of getting a casting style appearance with off-the-shelf items. The various caps, so we have an end cap, two facing caps, the cylinder caps, they're all basically components made up of these disc washers. Some tubing for the steam pipe, some rod for the valve shaft in the back, and also for the piston shaft, actual internal shafting. This piece of strap is used to make both the bearing caps across the tops and some of the other ancillaries around the place. This again is used to make things like the center boss, the elliptical for the timing, and I think the crosshead as well comes out of this one. There's a few items like this one here, which is actually used to make the valve face up here. This is bent with the side angles, the slot for the screw, and then this is soldered onto this face piece. Square of brass, which is used in a number of places, including the two bearings, the big end, and I think potentially as a small piece for that valve face, and possibly the crosshead. I'm not sure if that was this material or another piece. This lump here, interestingly enough, becomes the crankshaft. So machined out of a solid piece is that item there. So turn between centers to machine the main bearing, and then a piece soldered in to keep the gap to turn between centers for the two big ends. Sorry, turn the big end first and then the two mains. I won't go too far into this bag here. Suffice to say that this piece here is the actual piston itself. There's an olive and an olive nut, some other smaller pieces to make these various caps, and a threaded rod to make these spacer nuts. I think again a piece of this is used to make the end of the piston web. These items, 1, 2, and 3, is the actual engine base. So this is separate, and then the bosses will be machined in that for the bearings. This one here is our cylinder bore. So again, a brass bush. This one is a 20-24-40. So that is obviously machined to the size, the piston. These end caps are attached, and then a facing material is used to make the valve body and the angled insertion points for steam and so forth. This is probably the body of the valve box and also the steam box, so they're two side by side. Looking at this assembly here, so this is all soldered together out of essentially a number of pieces with machining operations. And this brass, perhaps this brass is actually this component, plus also the strap for the eccentric, the valve drive. A piece of aluminum or aluminium is the steam chest cover. Last but not least, this is our actual rod, piston rod. So I think this should be a pretty neat little build, and there's a whole pile of intricacy and challenge here for this for me, and it's going to be quite a challenging build. So I don't know what you reckon. Should I do it on the channel? Should I maybe set it up as my first Patreon project to have a specific audience for this build? What do you reckon? Let me know down below. And yeah, thanks heaps guys, and I hope you enjoy this unboxing of a Quayle 2020 horizontal steam engine. Certainly there's a number of other engines that Quayle has designed, and I guess in similar senses would be based around readily available components to keep the overall kit cost down, and with the option to spend as much time as you want to fettle it up and actually make it look more classic in its styling if you chose to. There's absolutely no reason why you couldn't knock the edges off the conrod or the piston or the crank webs or anything like that and actually take it to the next level. Limited only by your time and your imagination, I guess. So yeah, I have my thoughts about how I might progress in that area. Again, let me know. What do you reckon? Catch you next time.